Hey friends, welcome back to Birds of a Feather Talk Together. Hope everyone is having a great spring so far. This week we are talking about black-and-white warblers, one of the cutest little birds that behaves unlike any other warbler. It's a super fun episode, and thanks to Kelsey for asking us to do a full episode on these amazing birds. Join married ornithologists and curators of birds at the Field Museum, John Bates and Shannon Hackett, along with myself, RJ, and my wife Amanda, two newer birders who are learning as we go. We saw lots of black and whites last spring, so we had some fun stories to share this week. Okay, let's grab our binoculars and let's get into it. All right, welcome back, everyone. So we had a listener request to do a black and white warbler episode. Kelsey had sent us some pictures of I think she sent pictures of a snowy owl that she got, but also like a black and white warbler, and asked if we could do an episode on that. So this episode's for Kelsey.
Awesome.
But I'm super excited. We're just in Chicago, almost starting to there's maybe a few warblers that are starting to show up. I know we're recording this out of season or whatever, so you'll probably hear this like a month after. But yeah, it's, I don't know, nice that warbler season's almost here and we get to talk about a black and white warbler.
Yeah, I was bummed because I would say the earliest warblers are coming in, and at Perkins Woods up in Evanston, there was a Louisiana water thrush last week, and that's one of the first birds to arrive. And I couldn't go the first couple days it was there, and I went the third day and it wasn't there, which is
Bummer.
par for the course with things like that. But yellow rumps are coming in, and you know, a couple weeks or so, and the first black and white warblers will start coming through.
Yeah, we've picked up yellow rumped on Merlin, but haven't seen one yet this year.
Haven't seen them.
Yeah. So I don't know, definitely want to see it
I don't
first
remember.
before we...
Did Kelsey say why she wanted to? What is her attachment to black and white warbler beyond the fact that it's adorable?
I think she just got some good pictures of it and said, let me see if I can pull up her comment.
I mean, it is a really, really cute bird.
Yeah,
all
she
black
said
and white and streaky.
She said, I was wondering if you could please do an episode of these tiny but mighty little birds. She said black and white warbler would be quite interesting. Please and thank you. And I hope to see a Kirtland's warbler this year. I think she's in Michigan.
Cool.
So,
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that she said that they're mighty.
Yeah.
So I feel like back when we did I think it was like our first warbler episode years ago, John, you and Shannon both talked about how, you know, you can identify warblers from like, you know, their behavior, which like was something at the time that was new to Amanda and I. We were just looking for colors and patterns and stuff. And I feel like the black and white warbler was like the first one that we got good at identifying by behavior, because they move, you know, like similar to like a nuthatch or a creeper almost. So I like significantly remember like Amanda and I seeing this thing kind of creeping around on a tree and being like, oh, that's a black and white. And not identifying it because of like the way it looked, but because of the way that it was acting. So I thought that was cool.
Right.
No,
I agree, RJ. And I was going to say, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, Amanda.
Well, I was just going to say, to piggyback on your comment, like something along with their behavior of climbing up and down the bark. I love that even when the leaves start appearing on the trees, this is one you can see on the trunk of a tree. And so it's a lot easier for people like us to identify. Me personally, once the leaves start getting on the trees, I'm screwed. It's very hard for me to see or identify anything. So that's another reason I love the black and white warbler.
And I do love their color and their pattern. I think like the black and white, like I was trying to think of like what it reminds me of, and this is a weird comparison, but like I feel like when you're like baking and mixing like chocolate and vanilla frosting and it kind of like folds over itself, like I feel like it's this, it's like kind of this like, I don't know, not distinctive, but distinctive at the same time. Like it's like striping, but kind of like folds over itself. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I don't see a lot of that like pattern on other birds, and it's something that when I see it, I always like really liked. And I don't know, all the other warblers, you're looking for like a lot of colors and stuff, and I feel like this just has this very like distinctive pattern that I always really liked. So
same here. To me, I sometimes think it looks like tiger striping or brindle. Like I think I love the pattern. I think it's so cool.
But
yeah,
interesting.
we were reading about the aggression in them and how they'll chase off other birds. And last year when we did just like in our birding group, one of the people that leading it, and I know sometimes this can be kind of controversial, but did one of like the mob tapes or whatever, just to get all the birds come in. And there was a black and white that flew in and was like right next to the speaker. When we've seen the mob tapes before, we see, birds kind of come all in the area and everything. This thing literally landed like right next to the speaker and was like looking around.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know if it just seemed like more aggressive than the other birds or something. Or I don't know what was going on there, but I just remember that happening. And that was the one that like literally, like I thought it was going to attack the speaker.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have some bizarre vagrants, like in
Oh.
Northern Europe and things like that.
Really?
Imagine, yeah. Every once in a while, you get pairs that are in California and other places like that. So it's kind of bizarre, but interesting for sure. Hey, John, how many do you think we have in our collection? For me, this is one of the most shocking ones, and I don't know why. Without looking it up, guess.
Is he looking it up?
I hope not. I said you had to guess. You don't get to look it up. Play the game. Come on, man.
Wait, is this audio cut out?
Is he gone?
All
Yeah,
right.
our network has problems. So John, I asked how many you thought we had, and I said it was one of the most surprising things that I have learned, and I don't know why I was surprised by the number.
I'm going to guess we have 1,300.
Ooh, pretty good. We have a little over 1,500.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
Yeah. And that's because of the salvage that we've done over the years.
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of the things that's clearly true for this bird is that there's almost no genomic work that's been done across the distribution. And one of the things that would be great to know is so we're at this flyway, right? We have 1,500 of these birds over the last 50 years that, have hit buildings, hit windows that are in our collections. But because we don't have a broad scale picture of the, what's called phylogeography, so the distribution of genetic variants across the distribution. So we don't know how distinctive populations are. We don't know how to connect breeding grounds and wintering ground birds, except through some form of genomics. Because this is a monotypic species, there's not like distinctive morphological populations, at least not easily distinguishable. So the only way to connect these things is through genetic work. And so when I think about it, we have 1,500 of those birds. Are they all coming from the same region of the breeding distribution or not? And that's something we could know with sampling the breeding distributions to connect breeding, migration, and winter, which I think would be a really great study.
For sure. And another term that people use these days is there are a number of labs that are doing what they call genoscapes for birds, where they're literally doing what Shannon's describing. And if you get a good perspective on the genetic variation across the landscape, which is essentially what that is, you can begin to look at it both in the breeding season, the wintering season, and during migration. And that was one of the things that struck me when I was thinking about this bird, is the fact that there are birds wintering in the West Indies, there are birds wintering in Central America, and that's a pretty big geography for that to be happening. So the idea that say a bird breeding in Wisconsin could go to either place is not impossible, but it wouldn't surprise me if they have a little bit of fidelity. Part of that's because they're territorial, and they're territorial both in the breeding season and in the wintering season. And so my guess is a bird, a male that sets up a territory in the winter, goes and spends the winter in the south, is likely to go back to the same territory in the winter. At least that's what we've seen in other birds.
When I like things that make me think about birds, well, not that I don't think about them almost all the time anyway, but what this shows is that this is a common North American bird, right? And this is one of the few birds that is not declining, apparently, not declining in its populations, unlike so many others, most of the others. So but we still know so little about a really common bird in a place where there are a lot of scientists and a lot of bird watchers. So every time people think, well, we know everything we need to know, we don't know anything, basically. I mean, the things we could know is like this. The things we do know is one little tiny point in one of the corners of that really complicated landscape that is ever changing. So not only don't we know about them, what they're doing now, we don't know the past. And the only way to predict what might happen in the future is to know those things, the past and the present. But, so you can think about what we don't know about birds in the rest of the world, where there aren't bird watchers all the time. And there isn't, 10,000 eBird sightings a year. And there aren't very many specimens in museums and species that haven't even been described. We know almost nothing about. So people like us will never run out of things to do.
John, I know you're going down to South America soon to do some studying. I was just curious, like overall in general, how do you coordinate like studying, up near us versus scientists that are down in South America, so you can like collaborate on studying warblers in North America versus down in Central South America?
I mean, I think it's an evolving landscape in that sense, because you've now got expertise in so many different areas, and there's so many different kinds of things. Like, so we had Jacob Drucker, our former student who was working on radar in Colombia with Colombians, and but a bird. This is an interesting challenge for the folks that study a bird like black-and-white warbler. I mean, as Shannon is saying, nobody's really done that much, and part of the problem is, where do you start? And you could do a study in a single place. You could go up to Alberta and study the breeding biology of the bird up there, but then they leave in the fall and they're traversing the United States and potentially going down to either someplace in the West Indies or someplace in Central America, all the way down into Northern South America. And so,
I mean, think of what an audacious thing it is, the idea that you would breed in Alberta and winter in the Caribbean. I mean, This is a tiny bird. This is not...
Canadians do that all the time.
They might go to the Caribbean, but they're not going to Florida anymore. Yeah, because the real estate markets are tanking in both Florida and Arizona because snowbirds, Canadians aren't coming to the U.S. anymore. That includes my family. So,
but see, the black and white warblers are, and
they can go to Cuba. The Canadians are going to Cuba.
And the other thing, we were talking about why it's doing well, and some of that may be related to the fact that this seems to be a bird that is able to persist in I don't want to say a large number of different habitats, but certainly, it's a bird of, I would call, deciduous forest, and the good news in North America is there's a lot of regenerating deciduous forest that I think is suitable for black and white warblers going, back 100 years or so. And then you get down to South America, and most of the North American warblers that go down to South America appear to persist in habitat that, like coffee plantations and things like that can be a little bit more altered than actual original habitats, which is a good thing. I mean, there are definitely concerns about other species as a result of habitat loss in the wintering grounds. But by and large, some of these species have not fared that badly in those situations.
And I love their name. They're a monotypic genus, and the genus name, that means there's only one species in the genus. Miniotilta varia, and the genus name means moss plucker. So so that's what they do, right? They hunt around on trees and pull things, insects, although they do feed in other ways too. So even though they're thought of as like a specialist in that way, apparently they do a lot of different things. They glean and do other things that warblers do. But I just love that name. And the varia means obviously variable, spotted, streaky, things like that. So its name really captures it. And there aren't subspecies of this bird, which is weird because most North American birds have an abundance of undefinable subspecies. So it really is pretty similar across its distribution, such a broad distribution, which is why we really need to know some genomics or maybe some detailed morphological analyses with measurements that might show patterns of size variation I don't know about. There could be some things like that.
So one of the things I noticed along those lines is that this guy Alexander Wilson, who wrote one of the first ornithological texts about North American birds, put it in the genus Certhia, which is the genus that brown creeper is in.
Oh,
and so you can see why, like, even early on, the first Europeans encountering this bird would have been able to sort of see the behavioral similarities between a black and white warbler and something like a brown creeper.
But this warbler does not have a stiffened tail the way creepers do and other birds that climb around on trees do. So it does not have that morphological adaptation to it, which, goes to show it really is more generalized than you might think it is.
One of the things I saw.
What's the purpose of the? Oh, sorry, RJ.
No, you go ahead, Amanda.
Well, I was going to ask, what's the purpose of the stiffened tail in the brown creeper?
It's a brace. It's a brace. So otherwise, if you're going up a tree like that in particular, you can fall back. If your tail braces you, it enables you to creep up a lot easier.
Very cool.
So, and that's why woodpeckers have them too. So that's like, then you just look at the form following the function. So what do the birds that have these stiffened tails do that's similar? And then does that thing facilitate that particular behavior? And in this case, it clearly does. It stops the birds or it enables the birds to be more stable against a tree trunk.
And
cool.
If you look at things that go down tree trunks like nuthatches, they don't have that tail.
They don't have stiffened tails.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I was going to ask.
Black and white warbler is much more like a nuthatch at some level in terms of how it's actually behaving on a substrate in terms of going up or down, whereas creepers and woodpeckers will often just be going up and then flying back down.
So, hey, John, there are bizarre patterns of at least a few hybrids. Have you seen this with cerulean warbler and Blackbirdian warbler? What do those birds look like? I mean, I wonder what on earth the hybrids actually look like. That's one way of kind of understanding dominance of how dominance genes might work, and needs to hybridize them and to see, okay, well, what comes out. But I'm completely fascinated by that.
In the Birds of North America, or Birds of the World page, there are photos of a bird that is called a chestnut-sided warbler, black and white warbler hybrid. And I was looking at those photos, and I'm always interested when people do this without actually having the bird in hand, only because there's some guesswork involved. I mean, we've actually had birds come into the museum where we've looked at them and they don't match anything that and we're trying to figure out what the combinations are. I think what it says is the perulids are actually, I guess they're just willing to hybridize in various situations, which is definitely wild.
The other thing it reminded me in a positive way is that Fran James, who's kind of like one of the leading female ornithologists, did this incredible study, this niche study of North American birds that she published in 1971. And it showed that the niche of the black and white warbler was most similar to downy woodpeckers and yellow-throated vireos, which I mean, the idea so that's one of the great things you can do with enough behavioral data and statistics, right, is that you can put them into these pretty sophisticated algorithms and ask the question, this bird is here, 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 and it does this, 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 and it's found here in the tree or close to the ground or whatever. You can put all these parameters in, and you can ask, with algorithms, you can ask it to tell you what it's most similar to in all of these dimensions. So you're trying to reduce the dimensionality that something might occupy so many dimensions you can think of. You're trying to reduce the dimensionality and see how you can discriminate amongst them. And so this bird is similar to those, which I found, it was just a reminder of kind of how forward thinking she was and how important she was to ornithology.
Well,
And her daughter's
I think,
now one of the curators at the Smithsonian to studies.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
One of the leading avian paleontologists.
Wow.
I was going to say that one of the things that I remember growing up with is they used to. There's been a lot of emphasis along the lines of the paper that Shannon's talking about, to sort of look at the details associated with bird distributions relative to composition of trees across North American forests. And so it's amazing how the abundances of different species can change. So the clearest example is you've got deciduous trees going into this interaction with coniferous trees as you go further north, and as you go all the way up into boreal forest, it becomes almost all coniferous. But there's a mixing zone in the middle, and then within the deciduous forests of eastern North America, you get forests that are dominated by maples and forests that are dominated by other deciduous trees. And so I think what's being captured there at some level is some sort of preference for certain types of trees maybe over others, and that could be based on caterpillars or you know, it's almost certainly tied to food.
Well, it could be competition because there's these famous warblers in trees competition. So some are in the top of the tree, some are in the middle, some are on the bottom. You know, trying to partition the ecosystem and partition their niches to where they don't spend all their time competing.
Well, and
find their space.
I love this particular bird in that sense, because at some level, its competitors, you could say, are nuthatches and creepers, as opposed to other warblers. So they've actually branched away from other warblers a little bit. I mean, Shannon was saying earlier, they actually do behave like regular warblers lots of times too. But at some level, they're going into the niche of some birds that aren't closely related to them phylogenetically.
Wow.
I mean, they're really distinctive phylogenetically too. They're towards the base of the warbler tree of life, which has been revolutionized by genetic data by one of the curators, in particular by one of the curators of birds at Cornell, who did some pretty substantial studies on warbler trees of life and really shook up the warbler tree of life. Not that every genomic study hasn't shaken up whatever group that they work on, because pretty much it has. So it's really, I mean, you think about one of the most looked at groups of birds and warblers, to where in the early 2000s, you could completely shake the tree of life for these birds, erecting in genera and collapsing genera, moving species, realizing things are related to each other that you didn't know before.
I think they just didn't want to get rid of that generic name because it was so descriptive.
And their songs are really cool too. So you should go online and listen to what they sound like. They're very high pitched. So that's a bird that without wearing hearing aids, John probably can't hear. But I bet he can hear them with hearing aids. I bet he can.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the less distinct warbler songs, in my opinion. I don't know why, but it's kind of this long warbling, and so it doesn't. To me, it's kind of, except for the fact that sometimes when you hear it, you can just think, well, that's not anything else I know that could occur here. I wonder if it's a black-and-white warbler. Like, I'm literally in process of elimination because it doesn't sound like anything else.
Well, I think we're getting close on time for the black-and-white warbler. Is there anything else we want to chat about?
No, just the great choice for a bird, and
yes,
warblers are one of the best parts of spring in a lot of North America.
Oh, I did want to actually raise something that I've seen before, but I thought warblers was a good place to raise it. The University of Illinois Extension program has this thing called Voice of the Wild. It's on YouTube, and they have an episode on a lot of birds, but you can learn a lot more and hear a lot more about them, about black and white warbler, for example, through that. And we should put a link to that when we put this episode out. And then there's Leslie the bird nerd, who's clearly Canadian if you listen to her voice. Like I love it anyways. And she also has a YouTube where she takes, video peeks at birds, often with good detailed information and nice videos and song recordings of things. She also has a really cool merchandise store with all this really fun bird nerd stuff. So people should go take a look.
Yeah, we've definitely check out her YouTube page when we're doing research sometimes. And I don't know, we just like continue to watch. She's really good. So I love her stuff. Leslie the bird nerd. We got to get her on.
For sure.
Yep. I'm glad nobody's tapping on the window for you guys.
Thanks everyone for joining. We hope you all have a great rest of your week and keep enjoying spring migration. We love you all and we'll see you all next week. If you could please share Birds of a Feather Talk Together with someone that would enjoy this podcast, please do so. We're still trying to spread the word, so every little bit helps. All right, take care everyone. See you next week.